Hello everyone, good evening. I hope everyone's able to hear me. Please use the chat window to interact with us. All right, so let us start. Welcome to our session on a career in big data. My name is Anjana and I'm part of the team here at KnowBigData. I will take a few minutes of your time to take you through what to expect of this session. So please make use of this time to send in a quick one-liner introducing yourselves through the chat tool on GoToWebinar. So our instructor, or for this session, I should probably be calling him our advisor, is going to be introducing everyone to what big data is and why it is relevant in today's world, with a brief introduction to Hadoop. Then we will move on to what kind of big data jobs are available in the market, what are the prerequisites, the trends, FAQs, etc. Overall, we will try to give you the detailed picture on careers in big data. So during the entire session, we welcome you to please type in your queries during the session itself. You can help the instructor respond to more queries and comments by keeping your messages short, and please do avoid chat language. So the session is being recorded. The recorded video will be shared probably within 24 hours. The presentation will also be shared during the first 3/4 of the session, or about half of the session. We will have the instructor who will be speaking. Others will be muted. There will be a certain time when everyone will be unmuted and you will be able to ask your queries by voice. One thing that we are very particular about is that everyone should ask as many questions as possible. We are happy to be answering questions. So moving on, I'll quickly introduce you to KnowBigData. Our primary focus is online trainings relating to big data and data sciences. So we are thrilled to provide instructors who are industry experts, as you will soon see during this session. As part of the course, we provide access to cloud labs because we want our people to get a hands-on feel and know how things work at big organizations. Course takers are also given lifetime access to our learning management system, which will include all the presentations, recordings, assignments, and project work. You will be able to use our cloud labs to complete a real-life project for most of the courses that we have, and you will be receiving a certificate which can be shared on social media if you wish, that is on LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. You'll also be part of our alumni group. We like to refer to it as Knows Big Data, which will keep you posted of new job opportunities, help you stay updated and connected on relevant technologies. So let us move on. Our instructor, or like I said, advisor today is Sandeep Giri. I will let him introduce himself and take it over from here. Have a great time.
Hello everyone, can you hear me clearly? This is Sandeep Giri here. Are you able to hear me? Great. So at least 2 people can hear me. Good. Great. So I would like to read out your profiles, and we'll also have the discussion later on. And a brief introduction about me. I did my graduation from IT Roorkee in 2002. Then I worked for a company called DE Shaw, where we built big data systems before even the term was coined. Afterwards, I founded a company called Tbits Global, where we built a document management system to handle large scale of documents, and this was on the lines of what MongoDB does. And afterward, I worked with InMobi, where I built Recommender as well as few more solutions in 6 months, 6 months, 7 months duration. And there, in the Recommender, we were churning around 200 TB data. And afterwards, I joined Amazon, where I worked for 1.5 years and built a high throughput system, and was handling the detail page of Amazon. So in last year, we founded KnowBigData, and we are basically, as Anjana described, we are basically into the instructor led online trainings only in big data. Okay. So, all right. So let me recap a bit. Okay. So, all right. All right. Now, let me recap a bit. Today, first we are going to discuss what is big data and the basics of it, so that why we want to discuss big data first, so that we know what we are talking about when we do the career discussions. Is that all right with everyone? And once we are done with the basics of what is Hadoop and all of these basics, then we will go get into the details of industry trends in job market, and then frequently asked questions, which probably most of you would be having in mind. And then we'll have a unmute me session where we will unmute you, and then you can ask your question, and then we'll mute you back, and then I'll explain, answer your questions. All right. That will be after FAQs, and then we'll describe what kind of courses do we offer, and that's all. All right. So before I get into the details, let me go through your. I described about myself, and we described about company. Let me understand. So we have Sri Hari Sankar. He's a freelancer web application developer and trying to learn big data. Welcome, Srihari. And yeah, we'll take up this particular question from your side. I'll consider it as a question, that how can big data help a web developer, say PHP developer, in their career? All right, let me just make a note of it, quick note of it. So, how can big data help in web developer? Right, so we'll talk about this thing. I think I have not written it down explicitly, but we will take it up. All right, next is, so this is one question which I have to take up later. So we have Suresh Dasari from Bangalore. Welcome, Suresh. Please feel free to tell more about you. All right, so we have Sri Harsa, who is working as staff software engineer and will join call in some time. All right. Sajan is working as data science engineer at IBM Research. Good, good. And he's from. All right, we have a great set of audience. Welcome, Sajan. He's also from some IIT. And Ruben Sodhi. Okay. Hi, Shrikant. Nice to meet you too. And Suresh works for HP and for 8 years and is into application support. Great. Please feel free to describe a little bit more about you. All right. And we have around 20 audience right now. So, all right. So should we start? Should we carry on with our discussion? Hi, Shrikant. So you have raised your hand. Right now, we will not be unmuting you. Okay. So if you have any question, please type it. We will with the unmute session where you can ask questions will be in the middle of it. But any questions you have, you just ask right away by typing. So we have Dibs Mazumdar, who is a C# .NET developer. Can he enter into big data? Well, very good question. So let me just note it down. Okay, good. Yeah. Anything else? So we have Srinivas, who is working as a project manager at a software company. Good, good. All right. Yeah. All right. So we have Srikant Ramani. Uh, he's basically they are focusing currently focusing on a startup whose main focus is big data talent. And okay. Sure, Srikanth. So we can have discussion later on, or you keep asking questions. So the way these sessions happen, any question you come up, you just write it down. It is up to me whether I take it now or note it down for later. All right. So keep asking question, and these sessions need to be very, very interactive. All right. Great. So Suresh is saying that I do not have development experience, but I want to change to new technology. Is big data right choice for me? Okay. So yeah. So let's discuss it after some time. And some of your questions would be answered during our session. Okay. Most of these questions arise from not understanding the technology. Okay. We have Raghupati, we have Raghupati Natarajan, who is working as a big business analyst. And his question is, which big data title will suit me? I have 11 plus years of experience working in mainframe. Okay. So, yeah. So probably the most suitable title for you would be the big data analyst. All right. Or, yeah. So that will be the quick answer, but we can go into the detail if you ask. All right. So we have Sajan Kedia, who is working more towards the big data part, but very less towards machine learning part. Okay. I want to focus my career in, so Sajan wants to focus his career in data science, but he's not using machine learning much in most of the work. Okay. So that's mostly maybe because, so his question is that he wants to focus in big data sciences, but is not able to not using machine learning much in the work. So it's not the truth, Sajan, is that most of the organizations are yet to only there are only few organizations who are able to move to machine learning and data sciences, and rest are just struggling to reach there. Okay. So you might have to take your step right away. And once you know more about machine learning, then you will be able to move more easily. Okay. Now we have Srihari. Srihari's question is, how are data analysts and data scientists differ? Okay, very good question. We'll just keep it down somewhere. Yeah. And so these are good questions. Is there any role of Python in big data? That is Dibs Mazumdar's question. So yes, in very short, my answer is yes, and probably Python will be able to dominate as a language in big data. I'll explain to you why, and I'll explain to you why do we think that way. All right. All right, so we will take up these questions after some time. All right, let's. So to be on everybody on the same ground, let me just start with the basic understanding of what is big data and basics of Hadoop, so that we all are on the same platform when we are talking about. Okay. Okay, we have Ruben. Ruben is from Jhansi. He's studying in 10th and his main focus after clearing get into this field. So Ruben, very quick answer to you is probably this session may not be very suitable for you right now. And once you finish your maybe engineering, then you can get into the domain. All right. Probably you should right now focus on your current education at hand. All right, because this session assumes basics understanding of technology. All right, great, great. So yeah, keep the questions coming. I will be carrying on with our basic discussion on big data, and then all right. Now, all right. So a very quick question: what is it that you understand by big data? Okay, just give me a second. I will be back in a minute. So can you hear me clearly? So Suresh seems to be having some problem with the voice. Everybody else is able to hear me clearly? Great. So yeah. So my question to all of you is, what is it that you understand by big data? All right. Yeah, I had muted for a brief. So Suresh says that saving data and processing data, and that's what I want to understand. Good. Anybody else? So so that I know a little bit about you. So what is it that you understand by big data? What is your understanding? All right. So I'm assuming that so the big data is in very simple words, data of very big size. All right. Such a big size that you cannot handle using the usual tools. What do we mean by usual tools? Like usual file systems and usual databases. All right. And for handling such a big data, you would require the distributed architecture. The third point is probably you should understand. It is such a big data, or your problem is so complex that a single computer cannot solve it in a reasonable time. And therefore, you require multiple computers processing your data simultaneously, and that is what is known as distributed computing. So, such a big data that you cannot handle with the usual tools and that can only be handled, meaning the problem can only be solved using multiple computers at the same time, is known as big data. Such data could be structured, such data could be unstructured, and it can be of any form, right? And so big data is also used interchangeably with big data tools, big data technologies, and big data techniques. So we keep on using, that's why we call it big data is very much misused word. All right. All right. So Raghupati was saying that it's a collection of technology to make use of huge amount of data. Processing that Dib says that processing unstructured data and making business sense out of it. All right. So yeah, we have. So yes. So it's not only processing unstructured data, it can be any form. All right. So some of you might be wondering what exactly we mean by structured and what do we mean by unstructured. All right. Structured data means that from raw data, we have already figured out the structure of the data. What do we mean by structure of the data? We know exactly what are the fields in the input data, what is their data type, all right? What exactly is their data type? So once we have figured out these parts, data types as well as the fields in the input data, we call that data as structured data. Example of structured data is your data in relational databases, data in JSON format, and then on the other hand, we have unstructured data. What do we mean by unstructured data is we do not know what are the fields in the input data, and we also do not know what are their data types. All right, that is unstructured data. And there is something called semi-structured data. We call semi-structured data to the data where we know the fields but we do not know the data type of the fields, such as a comma separated files, CSV files. If you had ever tried to export the data from Excel, you must have encountered a data type called CSV files, comma separated files, where the fields are separated by comma. Therefore, we know the data type in the input. We know the fields in the input, but we do not know the data type of each field. All right, we'll have to parse it to understand what exactly is the data type. But in case of a relational database, when we create a table, we define that this column is of this data type and so on. So any data which is lying in relational database, we know clearly that this column would contain this data. All right. All right. So Srihari's point is that plain JSON also comes up as semi-structured data, as we do not know what is the data type till we parse it. So when I say JSON, I only mean by that we have already loaded the data into JSON, and while parsing the data and loading into JSON, we have figured out the data type of each field. All right. So you are correct. So before loading the JSON data, it is semi-structured or unstructured data, but after loading, we start calling it the structured data. All right. So that's what is big data about. Now this is the general definition which we talk about. Big data is, so we talked about big data in terms of big volume. It could be due to when you have data, when you have a problem of handling, when you face a challenge face a challenge which cannot be solved by a single computer, it can be because the data volume is too high as in you have petabytes of data, or the rate at which the data is coming in is that could be another reason. And third one could be the kind of data you are handling or the kind of problem you are trying to solve is complex. Okay, so if your problem is very complex, such as finding path between endpoints or finding a particular permutation of things in a set of points, so such kind of problems are generally complex, right? So all of this go into the bucket of variety. So either your problem could be very complex or your data could be very complex, such that you cannot handle it using a single computer, no matter what is the configuration of that computer is. Even if it's a supercomputer, you cannot generally solve the big data problems. You generally require hundreds of computers to solve a problem, and that is what the big data brings onto the plate. Now, third one is, yeah. So now the fourth point, which is veracity. Veracity essentially is um, situation where you have multitude of data and you are unsure about which data to keep and which data to discard. All right. Imagine that you got data of temperature from multitude of sources. One source gave you the data zip code wise, other gave you the GPS coordinate wise, and other one gave you per second wise, while other one gave you per minute. Now, your problem is that out of these all data sets, which one should be discarded and which one should be kept? So just by the sheer confusion, you might end up with a bigger volume of data, or you might end up with bigger variety of data, and hence veracity leads to either volume or variety, and hence a big data problem. All right. So in an organization, that the single data might be present in tens from different 10 sources, and therefore to even solve this problem of picking up the correct amount of correct data, you might have to actually write the big data solution, all right, just to figure out which data source is more valid. So that is veracity. Make sense to you, Raghupati? So basically, in very simple word, I would again like to go back to my slide. Whenever, whether the problem is complex or your volume is high or your velocity of data, for example, the number of requests that are coming from the user is too high. So in either of these cases, whatever is the situation, if you realize that you cannot solve this problem at hand with a single computer, you need multitude of computers, multiple computers to solve the problem at hand. You say that your problem is a big data problem. All right. So, yeah. So it can be, if you talk about in Facebook terms, the images which are being Data which is being captured every day constitutes the volume, while every second millions of people are accessing their timelines. That is velocity, because millions of people are hitting their services, and the request, even though the data may be very small, the requests are too high. Next is variety. The data could be in many forms. It could be in images, it can be a map, it could be map of friends, and so on. So basically, these are the various characteristics of data which forces you to use multiple computers to solve your problem. Make sense to you? A quick question, just to make sure that you are with me. So how many bytes are there in 1 petabyte? Quickly, just the first answer would be sufficient for me. 10 to the power 15. That is Sri Hari. Good. All right. Good. The Fayed also has said right same thing. For those who want to quickly see, we generally remember it in this way: kilo, mega, giga, tera, peta, hexa, zeta, iota, and kilo is 1024 bytes, and mega is 1024 times kilo, and so on. So every next one is 1024 the previous one, and that way. All right. And 1 byte is basically 8 bit, as in 8 knobs you can imagine, which each knob can have two state, up or down, on and off. And 1 byte essentially can store 256 states. All right. So we talked about two things. First, big data means it cannot be handled by a single computer. You need multiple computers. And petabyte means 10 to the power 15 bytes, which means if you write 1 and then write 15 zeros, that many bytes, okay, is 1 petabyte data. So my question to you is 1 petabyte big data? And what do we mean by that? What do we want to do with this? So if we had to store 1 petabyte reliably, do you think we require more than one computer? Right? That's what the question translates to. So we know that big data means any data that cannot be handled by a single computer, and hence we need multiple computers to solve this problem. So is handling 1 petabyte data big data problem? Anyone? So we'll talk about big data first and basics of it, so that we all are on the same page, and then we will dive into the career part of it. Hope that is okay with everyone. Now, Srihari's question is, if it's just 1 petabyte data, my MySQL will be sufficient. All right. So yeah, anybody else thinks that way? So Srihari's point is that, so his point is that if we have just 1 petabyte data, MySQL, a normal database, can will be will suffice to us to solve this problem. The answer is no. The reason is MySQL may be able to store 1 petabyte data somehow using one machine or over the network, but the retrieval time of 1 petabyte data, no matter how, is horribly, horribly slow. Therefore, Even though your compute engine may be supporting 1 petabyte data, your IOs may not be sufficient in case of a single node. But in case you build a network of MySQLs by dividing 1 petabyte data onto the network, then your MySQL will suffice. And if you look at it closely, you built your own big data solution on top of MySQL. All right. So was I able to answer Srihari? Yeah, clustered MySQL, when you build a cluster of MySQL, you are essentially constructing your own big data solutions. And there's nothing wrong in it. All right? Perfect. Perfect. So, yeah. Anybody else who thinks that 1 petabyte data is a big data? So yes, so most of the solutions, be it databases, be it file systems, do not suffice when we try to store 1 petabyte reliably and try to retrieve it uh, at a acceptable time. Okay, so therefore 1 petabyte data cannot be handled by a single computer. You will have to invariably build a distributed computing environment to handle 1 petabyte data. Again, distributed means dividing the data onto multiple machines as well as dividing the computing onto multiple machines. All right? So is everyone with me till now? Can you give me an example where someone wants to access 1 petabyte of data? Good, good. Imagine that you are building a kind of language searcher, or kind of you're crawling the internet. So Suresh's question is there a situation where an average person would like to access 1 petabyte of data? Right? So even if you are a very small sir, you're say imagine you are building a good search engine. Okay, and the role of this search engine is to make it really really easy for people to search something. Okay, now let's say people are searching, you are building an intranet solution. All right, but to churn to figure out the dictionary of words, to figure out the the relation between say blue dart and blue space dart, as well as the various connotations of blue dart, you might have to crawl a lot of data, and that crawling of data actually is around 500 terabyte. All right. Yeah. So whenever we talk about 1 petabyte data and handling of 1 petabyte data, so his next question is, do you think anybody will access whole of 1 petabyte data at a time? The answer is no. No one will. The thing is, based on your problem description, you will be accessing either the beginning or randomly any of the data, right? Therefore, therefore, you do not know how you will be accessing that 1 petabyte of data, and that would, even the accessing a random place in the 1 petabyte data would be time consuming. All right. Yes, that's correct. Srihari, thank you. So Srihari's point is that 1 petabyte data representation will itself be problematic. So even if you are not loading the whole 1 petabyte data in a single shot, still handling 1 petabyte data is still problematic. All right. Imagine that you have 1 petabyte numbers, and all you want to do is count a particular word, occurrence of a particular word in the whole sequence of the text. Or you have 1 petabyte strings, 1 petabyte text from all across the world. All you want to do is just scan through this text, find out the occurrence of one particular word, and and you would not be surprised to know that just going through 1 petabyte data using usual hard disk will take around 5 to 6 hours into 1024. So it will take around 6,000 hours just to go through this text. All right, because of the IO bottleneck. All right, so I'm going ahead with the rest of the discussion. Hope I was able to answer your question, Suresh. Great. All right, so this is the general graph which shows us that digital storage in 2002 suddenly exploded. Digital storage, as in the kind of digital data people have been accumulating, had has suddenly increased exponentially in 2002. And the reason was two parts. First one was devices, second one was connectivity. All right. While on one hand, the devices became cheaper, faster, and smaller, meaning it was possible for people to carry things like smartphones in their pocket and generating data using camera, using voice, using various kinds of typing and capturing information. On the other hand, the connectivity became faster and available everywhere. 3G, 4G, 2G, and so on, Wi-Fi and whatnot. We had broadband, we had other ways. Now, connectivity generally multiplies data. While devices are creating data, connectivity is multiplying data. All right. For example, I'm speaking here, I'm generating data and connectivity. Say if we have 20 people in the session, then the data is being multiplied by 20. All right. So therefore, these both the things made it possible to have lot of data flowing or accumulating. All right. Now I'm jumping ahead. So we talked about what is big data basically and how do you identify it. Second is the reasoning behind it. Now, how does it help? We talked about these devices are generating data, but why does it make sense to accumulate data? Why? There are many, many, many reasons. You could utilize this all data for various kinds of inputs. For example, if you are an e-commerce company and you have been recording the behavior of your users, then you will be able to build a brilliant recommendation engine. Based on their past behavior, you can tell them that people of your behavior generally also do these kind of things. So you can build a brilliant recommendation engines. You can improve the search quality. If you have a lot of data about your users and you have a lot of data about their behaviors all the time, you can improve the retrieval of the data. All right. How can that happen? Once you know that the search pattern of the people, the way they have been going through your website, doing various kind of work, you can improve the search quality. Similarly, if you are building a small search engine in enterprise, you might want to give users the suggestion that did you mean this? Okay, when people search for a word, if you know that what are the other words that mean the same thing, you can give those recommendations to the users. And that can only be done if you just download a lot of data from the web and then figure out the meaning of each word and figure out the 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 thesaurus, if you can build a thesaurus out of all of this data. Third is the sentiment analysis. Sentiment analysis is the common technology, common strategy in today's time, where we try to figure out what is the world saying about our product. All right, whether we are winning the election or losing an election. So those kind of things can be can be seen as part of sentiment analysis. Okay, most common sentiment analysis is by crawling Twitter, by crawling various forums, and then building based on the meaning of each tweet. We build whether the tweet was negative or positive and was neutral towards our brand name. So that is sentiment analysis. Now, next is the ad targeting. That is something very specific to few companies, so I'll skip it. Fifth is the A/B testing, where we have you have, say you want to make a change to the website, and you want to measure how is your change as compared to the existing website. Imagine that you are running Amazon detail page. In the Amazon detail page, you see that the buy now button is green. You come up with the idea that you want to change the buy now to blue. But you also want to, you don't want to just go ahead and do it. What you want to do is you observe it. You first give this blue button to only 0.01% of the users, and once you compare the quality of the blue button, whether the because of the blue button people are buying or not, so whether people are buying or not, you compare against the existing one. So existing one is called a test A, and the changes you made called blue button is called test B. And this whole process of measuring the quality of your work, measuring whether a change impacts or not, is called A/B testing. All right. So A/B testing requires handling a lot of data in real time, and there could be thousands of A/B test cases running parallelly on a website, and you need to be able to handle all of them. So A/B testing does require a lot of big data handling. Next is if you are a So Srihari's point is that e-commerce application usage look like pattern analysis and trend forecast. That is correct. All right. Now, telecommunication is just another example where you have customer churn prevention, where you want to figure out why are your customer leaving you. So if you can establish a relation between how many calls did the user made and how many of those calls were dropped before the user left you. Also, if you can figure out a correlation between the user leaving you as well as the time he was in the network, okay, and what has been their billing usage, what has been their mobility. So if you can correlate the reason behind your customers leaving you, then you can also fix it. Okay, you can also fix it if you can find out why people are leaving you. All right. Similarly, network performance optimization. If you figure out a pattern of the usage pattern of your users in the telecommunication, you figure out that in the daytime the traffic in a particular business houses is too high, while in the residence is too low in the daytime. So you can accordingly reschedule your resources, accordingly mobilize your resources in order to do the performance optimization. There are lots and lots of areas where the big data is helping people doing the performance optimization of the network. You can also do a lot of caller record analysis, figure out a pattern between people's calling behavior. Similarly, analyzing network to predict failure. Okay, so if you can establish a relation between the call drop or signal loss to the network failure to the machinery failure, and so you will be able to predict when is your instrument going to fail or when is your network going to fail. All right, so those are the example big data customers. Now there are many more use case in biotechnology, in health, everywhere, where people have realized that they can store a lot of data and get the meaningful results. In all such places, people have started to utilize that big data you in order to figure out a lot of insights into the user behavior. Okay, all right. So am I audible to everyone? Yeah, so Manish is having a problem. I'll just write to Manish. Everyone else is able to hear. Could you reconnect and check the voice settings? All right, great. All right, all right. So there are many more big data customers. Every company has figured out that if they are able to handle big data, they will be able to solve a lot of problems. All right. And handling big data should not be a problem and should be part of the core strategy of the business. Okay. We can no longer give an excuse that handling such a big data is complex given the current amount of technology which is available. All right. Now, if you can look at, these are just one handful of the examples. So there are many more big data solutions. Here are few of those. First is Hadoop. Hadoop is the most complete solution for handling big data. What do we mean by handling? You should be able to store data as file system. You should be able to store it as structured format like a database. You should be able to churn a lot of data parallelly using multiple computers, and you should be able to build solutions end to end using a simple language like SQL. All right. So you should be able to build a workflow. You should be able to build a various kinds of import export tools. There should be, so from that point of view, Hadoop is probably the most complete solution when it comes to handling big data. Next is Apache Spark. Apache Spark is just for computation. If you have already figured out how to store your data, big data, then if you want to do computing, then Spark can be useful to you. Third is Cassandra. Cassandra is just another NoSQL database similar to MongoDB. These are new generation databases where the focus is on distributedness instead of uh, instead of functionality. So Cassandra and MongoDB, and there are 150 such NoSQL databases. The focus is on performance and focus is on distributed nature, meaning we should be able to run Cassandra on thousands of computers to solve your problem. Okay. So similarly, in case of MongoDB, so MongoDB and Cassandra can store your data in a structured format. One can store like a table, other can store like a JSON document and solve your problem. Now, These databases will be good if you do not want to store, you do not have a requirement of representing your data as files. Okay, so if you have a lot of tools generating files and needing the data in the form of files, then Cassandra or MongoDB may not be able to help you, right? But in most of the cases, Cassandra or MongoDB does solve your problem. Next is the Google Compute Engine. Google Compute Engine is, and there are many other platform as a service where you do not have to bother about any of the tools or techniques. All you have to bother about how to upload data to Google and then how to use their query languages to retrieve the data or churn the data. Neither you have to worry about scaling. The Google Compute Engine will auto scale based on the load, and lot of headache is taken over by Google Compute Engine. But Google Compute Engine, because it's the data goes into somebody else's home and may not be a great solution for a lot of companies. All right. So basically, basically, out of all the many solutions, Hadoop seems to be the most complete solution. Therefore, we'll talk about more about Hadoop than others. So Suresh's question is Hadoop a solution or a TB? A very simple question is Hadoop is everything, right? Hadoop has one component. It is started with two components and now it has become multiple components as part of ecosystem. Okay. So we'll talk about after this one slide, what is it that Hadoop contains. Now we'll talk about a little bit more about Hadoop because Hadoop is probably in the highest demands. I looked up in the job market and Hadoop seems to be having the highest best salary as well as the more number of jobs across the world. All right, other than being complete. So Hadoop was created by a guy called Dog Cutting with Mike Caffarella. It was based on three papers by Google. One was Google File System, other was Google MapReduce, and other was Google Big Table. So there were three papers Google published, and based on those three papers, Dog Cutting implemented all these three in order to build his search engine. Okay, and he named it after the toy elephant of his the toy elephant with which his kid was playing, and it is open source. Probably the biggest reason why Hadoop is what it is the open source, and that too Apache license. Apache license is probably the most flexible one, and it allows you to use the product as even in the modified form. All right. So so it's well supported, it's quite powerful, and it's a framework to handle big data. All the components which are part of Hadoop. So Hadoop started as three components. Now it has expanded to in have multiple more components. And it is all these components which are under the umbrella of Hadoop. They are for reliable, scalable, and distributed computing. Okay. So all of the components which are under the umbrella of Hadoop, they are for distributed computing and hence for big data solutions. Now, these are the various components. So you will understand a little bit more. I'll just go through in one liner. So there is a file system called Hadoop distributed file system. So this file system, although it looks like a single tree to you, under the hood, the file system is spread across multiple machines. Okay, so So when you store a file onto Hadoop file system, it is divided into pieces and stored on multiple computers. All right. And so that is Hadoop distributed file system. Next is the Yarn, which is the compute engine written on top of Hadoop distributed file system. And the MapReduce is one such paradigm using which we tell Yarn to do something. Whenever we want to do the computation, say find out the average age of the people. So this is a computation. If you want to run it, we can write it in MapReduce and hand it over to Yarn, and Yarn will execute it on multiple computers simultaneously. Those multiple computers on which your file system is running. Alright. Next is Spark. Spark is similar to MapReduce paradigm for computing. So Spark also does the computing using your Yarn cluster. Yarn is nothing but, you can imagine the bunch of computers com uh, gathered together, and whatever logic you want to execute on all of them, you can tell Yarn to execute it. Alright. Next is HBase. HBase is a data store. Not really a database, but more like a data store. Meaning you can store data in it. HBase does not have a query language of its own. HBase does not have things like very advanced things which are part of the database, but HBase can handle billions of rows by billions of columns easily. Okay, so HBase stores its data into Hadoop distributed file system. Next is Hive. As we talked about HBase, we told that there is no SQL, and therefore Hive is one language where you write your queries in SQL that get converted into a logic that can be divided onto multiple computers in the form of MapReduce. And therefore, any query you write in Hive is in the form of SQL, beautifully written SQL, and can be converted into a distributable logic using MapReduce, and hence can be used to query either the file system or the data lying in HBase. Alright. Next is your Pig Latin. Pig Latin is a language similar to Hive, designed bottom up. Just like SQL, it was designed similar to SQL, but for distributed computing, for parallel computing. All right. Now, next is Mahat. When you have, when you want to generate things like recommendations, things like machine learning, so when you have to do all of that, you can simply use the library called Mahat. Mahat is basically a library of various functions to which you can feed data and give you the results back. And the way it executes algorithms is on Hadoop cluster. Alright, so Hadoop is essentially a collection of algorithms to do various kinds of machine learning work. Okay. Next is your Oozie. Oozie is a workflow where you can connect all your component together. Say, for one particular work, you might have to use HBase, Hive, Yarn, and HDFS all together, one at a time. In those cases, you can stitch the whole solution as a workflow using Oozie. Alright, and at the bottom you see Flume and Scoop. So when you have to move your unstructured data into HDFS, you can use Flume. If you have to move back and forth the data from your relational database such as MySQL or Oracle, you can use Scoop. So these are all the tools which we will be covering in detail in one of our courses, as well as these are the tools which are part of the Hadoop ecosystem. One tool which is missing here is called Zookeeper, that we also cover in our course. Alright, is also part of Hadoop ecosystem, that is essentially for coordination between vertical various jobs. Okay, so yeah, any questions here? So is everybody clear about what each component do? Suresh, Srinivas, Srikant, Srihari, Sajan, Ruben, Raghupati, Praveen, Manish, Kritika, Felix, Fahad Rahman, and Debs, Chandrasekhar, Anara. Are you able to? So, do you have any questions on this slide for me? All right. So, Suresh's question is why Hive, Pig, and Mahat are on the same level though? The reason is that Hive and Pig are basically using HBase, all of this compute engine. Similarly, Mahat also uses all of these resources in order to run the algorithm. Hive takes your SQL, converts into various kinds of distributed work, and does the job on top of all of this. So that is the reason, and we have kept Hive and Pig and Mahat on the similar level. Yeah. Yes, they do different jobs, definitely. All right. So, is everyone with me? Should we go ahead? So, Felix's question is Mahat a collection of machine learning algorithms? Yes, that's exactly what it is. So, it can do recommendations for you. It can do a clustering for you, and lot more. And all of this it does using multiple computers simultaneously. The problems which cannot be solved using algorithms which run on multiple single computer can be solved using Mahat. All right. So most of these algorithms which Mahat gives are very generic. Okay, in the sense that you can feed the data in a very customizable format. Okay. So the way generally most of the machine learning algorithms work is you give them a lot of input data and they give you the output data. Okay. And the main problem always remains is forming the data. Now Ruben's question is, what is the difference between CLI, Java and Python? Okay. So you can use all of these. You as a user, you can operate upon any of these components using either command line or Java or Python or any other programming language. And or you can use Oozie kind of a framework. Instead of you launching the job, you let the Oozie do its job. Okay. All right, so sounds good. No questions right now. So this was a very, very, very quick overview of what exactly is Hadoop, and probably why we have this revolution of big data is probably due to Hadoop, because after Hadoop, it became very simple to store and handle big data, and that's why the industry started accepting it. So Suresh's question is big data and cloud are related anywhere? Yes, definitely. Why? What exactly is cloud? Cloud is computer at someone else's place. Okay? And whenever you are building a big data solution, you generally work on multiple computers. And when you have this collection of computers lying somewhere else, lying on somewhere else's premises, you call that your big data cluster is in the cloud. All right. All right. So hope I could explain the relation between big data and cloud. So Manish's question is Apache Thrift not part of Hadoop ecosystem? So Apache Thrift is a generic service layer, meaning whenever you have to provide, you are building, say, any service. Imagine you have built this server which gives responses to the people's. Let's say you built a grand phone book where people come, enter the phone name and phone number, and they whenever they give the name, it gives the phone number back. Let's say this is a small service. Now whenever you build such a service, you have to provide clients in various languages. Also, you want your customers to be able to access your service really, really fast. Okay, so similar to SOAP, REST, we have a thrift layer which is extremely fast. So, so thrift is generally part of everything and is still not considered the big data. For example, Hive, the service Hive basically runs on a particular port. You can access it from the remote. That layer is in thrift. Similarly, in case of HBase, the service layer is in thrift. All right. I hope I am able to answer, Manish. Great. Any other questions right now, or should we move ahead? Suresh's question is big data solution mostly used for search engines? No. Big data solution is used for every problem statement where your data is growing beyond the size your database is able to handle. Or big data solution is for any problem where your data is growing beyond a size which your file systems can handle. Felix's question is, instead of HBase, can we integrate Cassandra or MongoDB as NoSQL database? Yes, definitely. Basically, my question is, can we disintegrate this Hadoop ecosystem into different segments and interoperable of this with others? Yes, definitely you can do. For example, you can have a look at how to run Cassandra on top of HDFS. So Cassandra will be storing its data in HDFS, and MongoDB can also be used in conjunction with Hadoop. If you go to our YouTube channel, you will see something called Mongo Hadoop video. Mongo Hadoop video essentially is targeted towards the case where you want to load the data from MongoDB from your Hadoop cluster. But most of these kind of integrations, the cross-platform integrations, end up being a little suboptimal. They are not really very, very fast. They have a latency. All right. That is the reason why this ecosystem makes more sense. But definitely at the cost of little speed, you can utilize other tools as well with HDFS. All right. So we have a question from Suresh. So this question I have already written down the answer to. We'll talk about it. I heard basics Java and Linux is advantageous for learning big data or Hadoop. If so, in this slide they are used. Right. So whenever we talk about MapReduce and you want to utilize MapReduce to its full strength, you might want to utilize it using Python or any other programming language or maybe Java. If you want to control HBase, from our API level, you can control it using Java, and that is most best way to control it. Similar is case of MapReduce. So we'll talk about this in a little bit more time. Right. So most of the work you can do. So in a real practical sense, you will not be directly using MapReduce, but in some cases when your problem cannot be solved using Hive or Pig, you will have to write your logic on MapReduce. And that too, you can basically utilize any kind of program, be it Python, be it Shell, be it existing binaries, with in MapReduce, that is called Hadoop streaming. Or if you are good at Java, you can write the program in Java. All right. So most of the work can be done using either Java or Python or any other programming language. But when you are getting into the Hadoop ecosystem or any big data solutions, you need to know basics of any programming language, so that when you look at the programming syntax, you should be able to figure out quickly that this means this. All right. All right. So here are the general. I went to the, here is the source. You can see the link. Okay. So you can see clearly, you should have, Suresh's question is, we should have experience or knowledge is enough. So knowledge is enough, but little bit, even if you have done some 10 years ago, if you have done some coding, it would be a great plus. All right. Although a lot of candidate in our classes who did not have Java experience earlier did not have any problem at all. Did not have any problem at all in our sessions. They were able to learn. Okay. All right. So in this graph, I went to Indeed.com. So these are the job trends. So I just searched for Big Data, Hadoop, and Oracle parallelly. So you can see that here, the demand of Oracle has gone down drastically. Okay. Here it might seem a little bit going up, but again, that's just a, like you can see here up and down, that's just minor local maxima. It'll again go down. Now, here at the same time, you can see that the demand of big data and Hadoop has gone up. It's looking very small because the rate at which the demand of Oracle has fallen down since January 2006 here is bad. That is why the growth in demand of big data and Hadoop is looking very small. So we have another question from Felix. So if Java is not mandatory, why? But the companies are making it mandatory to at a minimum of 2 years of core Java technology at least for internal movement from other technologies to big data. How can we meet up if we have not at all Java? So yeah. So see, so there would always be this kind of a problem, and every company has got their own rules. Now, but the good news is not every company is the same. There are a lot of organizations, if you look at the various job opening, they generally say 0 to 3 years. But I would strongly recommend that you should learn Java or Python if you haven't done so. Okay? Basics would be sufficient. basics would be sufficient. Basics as in this is a for loop, this is a while loop, this is how variables work, this is the object structure, and that is why we have provided a free self-paced course which you can right away sign up. Just go to our website, register, and then confirm the email, and then you go to my courses and you will see Java over there. All right. So it should not be very difficult. We have just kept it a 10 hours course and you should be able to quickly go through it. All right. Okay. Manish's point is that I have an industrial experience of 2 years in core Java. That should be more than enough, Manish. Okay. Shrikant's question is, wow, good. Thank you, Shrikant, to organize everything into points. Let me answer one at a time. First question is from Shrikant. What makes What makes someone a big data or analytics talent candidate? Okay. First, uh, knowledge about knowledge about the big data tools. So let me talk about only first one first, big data. Okay. For big data, if somebody knows big data, that means they know which DB to use, which okay. So what makes someone big data talent candidate? They know how to handle petabytes of data. All right. Second, that's probably the easiest answer to say. Now, what does it mean that they know how to handle petabyte of data? They should be able to do it using Cassandra or other NoSQL, or they should be able to do the computation over Hadoop. All right. Or they should be able to utilize other environment. Okay. But their fundamentals fundamentals on map reduce paradigms, gossip protocols should be very clear. Okay. So whenever somebody claiming that he's a big data candidate, they should know exactly what does it mean, and they should have the clarity on how does the distributed computing work. Okay. So this is or, these two things are or, while rest is and, this is and, this is and. Okay. Hmm. Yeah. So Suresh, give me some time. I'll answer about Linux also. So yes, I'll answer Suresh's question in between. His question was, I heard basic Java and Linux are advantageous for learning big data and Hadoop. If so, then in okay. Now here we talked about Java already. Now let's talk about Linux. So probably almost all the tools work on Linux/Unix. You will be surprised, though Hadoop has been ported to Linux. Sorry, Hadoop has been ported to Windows. Still, still, it adds a lot of value to know Linux because most of these tools, almost all the tools, not even Hadoop, almost all the tools are preliminarily built using for Linux. Why so? Why? Why almost all tools here? I'll write here. So why so? Because because on the server side, on the high throughput server side, Windows has not been very successful so far. Has not been very successful. Therefore, everywhere on the server side, people use Linux or any other variant of Unix. Alright? And most of these technologies, which we talk about distributed computing environments or big data technologies, all of them runs as a backend. And therefore, it makes a lot of sense to know a little bit about Linux so that you can handle it properly. Alright? So Suresh, was I able to answer your question? Now we have a question from Raghupati that what are the skills experience needed to become big data analytics? Praveen's question is, could you please tell about statistical tools such as SAS, R, SPS, etc. and relation to big data tools like Big and Hive? We'll talk about it a little bit soon. Yeah. So, yes, Suresh. So, most of these tools which we talked about, Pig, Hive, everything, they have a command line interface as well as a web interface. And therefore, if you are utilizing the command line interface, it will be great and it will be more advantageous to you if you know how to use Unix command line. That is why generally knowing Java and knowing Linux will be more advantageous if you are going ahead with Hadoop stack. If you are going ahead with other stacks, probably Python and Linux combination will be far more useful to you. Okay. Now Sachin Kedia's question here, I'm just noting it down so that everybody can. I'll talk about this. Yeah. We'll talk about this in a minute. Don't worry. All right. So this one I had some. I forgot. I think Srikanth asked these questions. So Shrikant, was I able to answer your first question? Yeah. All right. Let me just pick up the second question. How are company currently identifying their talent requirements in the big data and analytics space? What are the hurdles and pain points they face? What can be improved? Okay. So first is the first problem which I see in a lot of knowledge partners I have. The first problem is understanding the talent requirement. What exactly understanding what kind of candidates do they require? Second is ability to interview a candidate. Lot of companies, lot of companies do not have technologists who can technologists who can interview or frame an entrance test. So a lot of companies do not have that. Okay. So next problem people face is basically when it comes to get next is sourcing the candidates, sourcing the resumes, meeting the requirements. So lots of openings which I have dealt with these companies is they people are not able to get enough candidates, so they make up these strange rules saying people should have at least 3 years of minimum requirements in minimum experience in Java in Hadoop, and at the end of it they don't get a single resume, and then they waste their time. So that is another problem which companies face by they make the wrong kind of a requirement. So you can basically look at the requirement and say, let's see, only a few handful people are meeting these meeting these criteria, and therefore you should relax your criteria, and hence your you will be able to hire more people. All right. So these are the general problems which I have seen while while helping couple of my knowledge partners. Most of these companies do not have any idea as what exactly do they want. Reason being, they don't even have initial idea as what exactly the candidate would be doing. If they know that this is the kind of work the candidate would be doing, then they will have clear idea that they'll hire this kind of person. So when people hire when a company hire people, what do they do is they generally create a mind map of, I need people like Srikant in my team. Okay, and hence that becomes a mental benchmark for creating the vacancy. Right. And that's what, if there is no person in their team who they are can take analogy with, they falter in creating a proper job opening. Okay. And this is a very common problem. All right. Is there a standard procedures that analytics company follow in order to hire talent? So generally, they are going through traditional routes, but now lots of people are going through GitHub. And other than the other than the other than traditional routes, traditional as in Naukri, referral, and LinkedIn and Monster and probably Indeed. Other than the traditional ones, people are also opening up for Kaggle and GitHub based on how many reshares has been by of somebody's repository and how many people have marked it as favorite. So people are looking up at those new areas of hiring. Okay. Next question is that what are the relevant point of information from a big data candidate? His skill sets, his domain knowledge, his practical knowledge, etc. Any particular way of testing it. Okay. What are the relevant point of information from a big data candidate? So yeah, there are many kind of a test which you can prepare. So a better idea is to prepare a test or prepare a real test, as in give a challenge which you already are facing. Okay, such as we have say two say 20 TB of data, and we expect X amount of data, and we expect X amount of data over this period. How are we going to store it, and what give the detail of the whole scenario? What is the stack you're going to use, and how much time will it take will it take to do XYZ? So these kind of questions, if you form properly by observing the reaction to the question, by explanations and the valid the various kinds of solution, you can easily pinpoint that this candidate is right and this candidate is wrong. Okay. What key indicators can be captured from a candidate's profile in order to make it easier for companies to access information about a talent? So a general way is that, yeah. So the first one is the candidate. I mean, this is something very, very difficult to answer. So his question is that what are the key indicators that can be captured from the candidate's profile? On the lighter note, if the candidate has our no big data certificate, you should hire them immediately. Yeah. All right. So probably this answer we can answer this later on, right? And yeah, I would avoid answering these questions right now. We can have a discussion later on. All right. How can I structure big data analytics resume to make it easier for companies to access? Yeah. So first is your big data analytics resume should reflect exactly what did you work. Okay. Meaning it should say made it. You should say it in numbers that made the churning of data X times faster, something of this sort. Built a solution ground up that handles X, Y, X TPS. TPS is in transaction per seconds. Okay. And using Y nodes. So your solution should be very, very clear. Your Whenever you are putting up your project, this is what I did, and you put the duration of a project, and you also say clearly that how much was your data and how did you handle it. Instead of saying these are good, these are good, and this is bad. Bad is was part of a team that built a big data solution or Hadoop based solution. This does not convey anything. All right. So when you are mentioning your experience, or in case you have written a paper, in case you have written down various other important utilities, you should mention them very clearly. Okay. Now, I'll answer. There are so many questions yet to answer, and I will try to answer one by one. So be patient. All right. All right. So I've got brilliant questions, and you will have to wait for me to finish it. And yeah, I've got really brilliant questions from you. So just give me 15 minutes of time. Let's be back in 15 minutes. I'll take a break now. So let me just create a quick slide. Break for 15 minutes and back by how much is 15 plus 18? All right. Hi, can you hear me? I'm back. Good, good. All right. Next question about the skills needed to become a big data analytics analyst is you should know at least pig or hive along with the basics of concept of Hadoop. Okay. And the other than this, people should know, because what happens is let's understand the role of a big data analyst. Big data analyst role is that you already have data and you want to analyze this data in order to give some insights into the data, right? So so in case you are onto Hadoop stack, I would strongly recommend that person should know pig or hive along with the basic concepts of Hadoop. Hadoop as in HDFS and MapReduce. Basic concept HDFS plus MapReduce. And knowing Mahat will definitely be a plus. Okay? Because in certain cases, the person should be able to utilize Mahat. Other is knowing how they can run R program on Hadoop. Okay, if they are good at R and if they want to run it on Hadoop, it should be possible. If they are not on Hadoop stack, and then I'll not be able to comment much here. You might be using your internal stack, or maybe they should be comfortable comfortable with the SQL interface on the cloud compute engine. All right. So that could be another way. But the basics of the other knowledge you should look out for the generic knowledge. The person should have statistics. Basic statistics should be very clear. Basics of statistics should be very clear. Okay. All right. Can you please tell, next is, can you please tell about statistical tools such as SAS, R, SPSS, etc. in relation with tools like BigHive? Yeah. So most of these tools, whether SAS or R, most of these tools, SAS, R, are single computer based. The moment your data which you want to process goes beyond what can be loaded into memory, these tools are useless. The moment your data goes beyond what can be stored in the memory, then these tools become fairly useless to you. Okay, be it R or SAS or SPSS. So these tools were good till the point we had small data. They did a very good job. Now imagine computing as simple as thing like average. Okay, computing average value of 1 terabyte numbers might take 7 to 8 hours on a single node. You can say 5 to 8 hours. Okay. Now, when your average value computation using a single node is taking this much time, how do you expect that the person will be able to solve the problem using these tools like SAS and R? Because these are all single node based. Therefore, it is important to move these techniques onto the big data. All right. So any data analyst has to generally, traditionally, all these data analyst has been doing SAS and R for years. All right. Now, those people, when they had to do the same thing using big data on big data, these tools became useless. And that's where the requirement came into place. Can we do the same thing, what we did at R and SAS using big data tools such as Pig and Hive? And that's why it became a little bit more popular. All right. So the general idea is that person should be comfortable with the statistical tools, as well as person should be comfortable with running the same thing on the big data by the way of Pig or Hive. And that's why these relation you come to see. Although you will be surprised to know that languages like R has been in existence since 1970. Okay, this is which is 45 years old. All right. Now, next is somebody's question was, can you please tell me how to learn machine learning for data scientists? For data scientist position, most companies ask for PhD. So should I stick with big data engineer, right? So I'll answer one thing at a time. So how can you please tell how to learn machine learning? So first, there are good sources of information such as Coursera videos, okay, as well as you should start reviewing the documentation of Mahat. Okay. After you finish the documentation of Mahat, you will be comfortable with 70% of the total. And you should be knowing the terms, and that will make you far more comfortable. Next question is that although we are in process of launching machine learning, okay. Now, for data scientist position, most companies ask for PhD. So, should I stick to big data engineer? So, yes, lots of companies are have created this kind of requirements. But good news is that there are other companies who really look at your caliber. If you can convince a company that you are suitable for a candidate who can solve their machine learning problems, then lots of people do consider. There's no hard and fast rules. It is just that some people have taken the data scientist word very seriously. Okay. So, for example, the person who designed, okay, the person who is a data scientist at Google. His name is Jeff Dean, for example. He just a graduate. He just a, uh, he had just bachelor's degree in computer science. Okay, he's the one who was part of the designing of Hadoop, HDFS, and now machine learning. Now, uh, so so the fact is that in the computer science area, most of these degrees are immaterial. Okay, it is just that unless you have something to show off, okay, you people will not recognize you for this data scientist position. If you are really aspiring for data scientist position is little long haul. Okay, so what you can do is you can compete at Kaggle, and once you have a decent score, once you have decent score, you should be able to get a decent position at pay. Okay, so that's a one way if you are aiming at a data scientist position. Now, okay, we have Kritika's question. Let me just put it here so that everybody can read it. So here is the question, and all right. So here the question. I hope there is nothing. Yeah. So, hello, I'm a life sciences researcher and have 3 years of experience working in a laboratory. I want to shift to the field of next generation sequencing, big data analysis. What kind of courses should I take up to integrate my previous skills as a life sciences researcher into big data analysis? Okay. Some clinical research companies look for people with SAS and SQL experience. How does this certification help? Right. So there are only those companies which are generally looking for clinical research and they are only looking for SAS and SQL experience. The thing is they are still looking for the smaller data. They are not looking for the big data. And I need to understand first because I am facing this question for the first time. So, okay, you have a life sciences research experience and you want to shift to the field of next generation sequencing, okay, big data analysis, what kind of courses should I take up to integrate my previous skills as a life sciences researcher into big data analysis? All right, all right. So for doing the big data analysis, I'll just go with whatever I know. I'm not really very sure that I do understand that the kind of experience you have in past. So I would like to understand your previous experiences. Do you have a computing background? If so, then what level of computing background you have? That will be great for me. No, do you are you comfortable with any programming language, databases, operating systems, SQL? All right. So I need to think about this, and probably I'll need more time to answer this. So probably I will drop you an email separately, or we can take it offline, because honestly, I'm not sure. Okay. So in case you have used databases for research purposes and you want to move to big data, probably the uh, approach would be that you use things like Hive or Shark in the big data stack, and you should be able to handle big data. Okay, but I need to understand more to be able to answer this question. All right, going back, going back. All right, now we have. Did I miss anybody's question? So we have, yeah. What are the type of job does Big Data Hadoop have, and how to decide where I should fit in? We'll talk about this. Okay. So I think most of these questions I have already prepared. Okay. So let me just go through these, although I know there are too many questions. Now, these are a quick look at the salary trends. The link is given at the bottom. I'll send you the link, so you can see definitely out of all the things, Oracle, Hadoop, Java, and MongoDB and JavaScript. Hadoop is definitely a winner when it comes to salary trends. Reason being that maybe there is a less of a competition over there. So this is the average salary as per the Indeed.com. Okay. Again, the another analysis I did year ago was again in a year ago also the number of jobs in the higher salary ranges were there in Big Data and Hadoop as compared to the traditional jobs like Java and all. Now, various kinds of positions. I generally categorize the positions in big data into these buckets. Okay. First one is the data scientist bucket, where we need to know a who data scientist is somebody who basically knows a lot of maths, who knows a lot of computing, and who knows um, the business problem. Okay, so data scientist is an intersection of the three things. So that's a one position. So person good at the the statistics, maths, and programming language, the computing, as well as the understanding of what business we are in, is a data scientist guy, right? And then second is the software engineer part, software engineer, senior software engineer, uh, and so on. So software engineer part, so it comes into many phases like software engineer, senior software engineer, software development engineer, senior software engineer, and Java, and software developer. So and software engineer identity management, along with big data engineer. So all of these, all of these up to big data engineer are almost the similar position. Okay, are similar positions, and uh, basically for this bracket, our current course, Big Data and Hadoop, will be good. While DevOps engineer, if you are DevOps engineer, which is equal to sysadmin, then probably the Hadoop administration course would be good, that we will launch in future, but not right away. After that, I mean, we'll launch in probably next month this DevOps course. Now, next is the data engineer. Data engineer and data architect is an equivalent role as DBA, and the big data architect is somebody who is a software engineer and has been DBA in past and knows about Hadoop. Next is the big data architect is okay. We have already talked about. Product manager is big data product manager is somebody who had been the software engineer in past. So manager is a very uh, misused word. Somewhere the product manager is actually people manager. Somewhere the product manager and program manager there is no difference. But the general definition of a product manager is that product manager is software engineer by experience, but has a very good understanding of the business side of the product. So product manager is generally the owner of the product or a product line in a company. All right. So for being a product manager, person need to be what he can. I mean, what software developer can do in Hadoop, he should be able to do that. Okay. And data analyst is somebody who, given a data, can analyze the data using tools like R, Hive, or Pig. All right. The other positions and positions for Hadoop are also similar. Like we have data scientist, we have big data architect and data architect, and we have these common positions. Okay, we have these common positions, and then we have administrator position. Okay, yeah, I'll answer Dibs your questions. Don't worry. So I'll just go through these, and then we'll talk about questions. All right. Now these are few questions I would like to discuss here. First is, I'm not from Java background. Can I take the course on Big Data and Hadoop? This is a very common question which people ask me. So there is a course for the people who are in this bracket, who are looking for this bracket: software engineer, senior software engineer, or big data architect and data architect. Even data scientist also, this course is good because lots of data scientists do not know how to handle big data. So whenever they want to do that, they basically go through this course. So big data and Hadoop course is probably cuts across all the three positions here. May not be great for DevOps engineer, all right, because lots of DevOps engineers do not really want to know what exactly the product does. Okay, but I strongly recommend that people should know what product does, even if they are just responsible for administering it. So for this bracket, as well as these two people, this course on big data and Hadoop, which we are doing, is probably the most useful one. And lots of people ask this question that, I'm not from Java background, can I take this course? Yeah. So here is my answer. Java is needed for MapReduce generally. When we deal with Hadoop, Java is needed for MapReduce generally. And what is MapReduce? MapReduce is a programming paradigm. Just like you have function calls, just like you have for loop and while loop, Similarly, MapReduce is composed of maps and reduces, a paradigm in which you define two sets of functions and let them distribute the data and do the computation. So we go into the details of MapReduce a little more. So MapReduce is such a paradigm. So uh, lots of people in the beginning, MapReduce could only be possible using Java programming language. But later on, few people worked on it and made it possible to use any program as map and reduces. Okay, any program you can run, you can do, even if you have shell programmer or Unix commands, you can utilize those Unix commands and run them in a distributed fashion across the cluster. All right, so that is called Hadoop streaming. So basically what we did was we converted this, so MapReduce was tied to Java. Now Hadoop streaming made it possible to do this distributed computing using any programming language, whether you are from Python background, you are from shell background, you don't know much of a programming, but you know Linux command lines, then you can do MapReduce even if you are not very hands-on with programming. All right. So, which means you can utilize any language, not only Java, to do the MapReduce. And but since Hadoop has been bottom up written in Java, so to control Hadoop, to customize Hadoop, it is quite easy in Java as compared to any other programming language. Therefore, it is nice to know, it is more useful to know Java, and hence we have seeing the people requesting this, we are providing a free course on Java. All right, so you can go to our website knowbigdata.com, sign up, and under my courses you will see the Java course. Okay, I will take up your question quickly. Wow, this is the first time I have got so behind answering the questions. All right, so no worries, I'll take a little bit more time to explain. I don't have much experience in big data. How will I get a job? Okay. Now, this is another question which I face quite often. First, this whole technology is fairly new. So, getting an experienced person beyond 3 years is out of question. And even within 3 years of experience, it's very, very difficult to get a Hadoop developer. So, lot of companies who are our knowledge partners, they start with this attitude that they need 3 years of experience in Hadoop, but they realize later on that they made a mistake and they correct it and make it something like the 0 to 3 years of experience in Hadoop or big data. Okay, so so what does it mean to you? It means that even if you see that some people are asking for experience in Hadoop, okay, do not hesitate in applying even if you have just 2 months of experience with us during the course. Do not hesitate in applying, because chances are that they will not get 3 years of experience person so easily. Okay, and in real life, a company who is really serious about hiring, they will not care about years of experience or do, because they would know that it is a knowledge which can be acquired by hard work. They will they, they will basically look for whether you have displayed a focus in learning or not, and they would generally have an experts to interview rather than relying on number of years of experience. Next question lots of people ask is, should I wait for my employer to get the training? Okay, my answer is, very quick answer is no. Do not wait for your employer to get the training. Most of the trainers you will see in the industry are subpar because of the vendor lock-ins which these companies have. Okay, so I have met lots of people who are our uh, knowledge partners, and here and there all of them are seeing a very low quality of trainers in the traditional uh, traditional environments. All right, and that's the reason why I'm able to sustain, because the trainers, there is a gap in the industry, gap between the availability of trainers who can train in the big data technologies and the demand. So there's a gap. That's why we started No Big Data in first place. So there is a trainers are not on the par with industry, and therefore it will be a waste of your time. Second, big data may not be your organization's priority. Right now, your big data may not be your organization's priority, so you might have to wait for quite long. Next is organizations prefer to hire instead of training, and this is a well-known fact. Okay, you might differ in this because this is a quite subjective term I'm using here. The They train so that you cannot say, I don't know. This is what I have heard from lots of people when I talk to them, that I am getting people trained from you so that these people cannot say, I don't know Hadoop. All right. And which is not something, and which is the reason why the quality of trainings is bad. For example, they will make it 8 hours a day. They'll make it 8 hours a day, which is impossible. Okay, retaining a focus for 3 hours is impossible. 8 hours is just waste of time. Now, they might train you on a smaller subset of technology which is very specific to organizations, such as IBM's big data stack or Teradata's big data stack only. Next is the real reason why these trainings at these big organizations suck is: A spends B's money in training, C for D's work. And that's what it is. Okay. There is a learning and development person who is deciding on which vendor to finalize and so on. So that whole process of selection of a trainer is quite bad. Right? So my strong advice to you all is, do not wait for your employer to fund you for training, or get a trainer for you. All right. Do certifications matter? In simple words, no. All vacancies, I mean, in almost all vacancies, you will notice that certificate is nice to have. Okay. Second, there is no single authority in case of big data domain for the certification. There is Cloudera and Hortonworks, and both of them, and similarly Mapr, both of them are selling their courses as well as providing a certification exam. And what they do is they make sure that only their candidates general work succeed in the certification exam, and that's how they are able to sell their trainings, and their trainings are very outrightly costly. Okay, the companies which are really serious about big data generally have a team who can interview you without looking at your certificate. Okay, next is, I am from a testing background, should I take up the course? Yes. If you are from testing background, I strongly recommend that you should take both Hadoop developer and administration course. Reason being, the role of a QA is very deep in a project. From the day zero, QA is involved in the decision making of the project, and QA works hand in hand with developers from the day zero. All right. If a company is really serious about QA, this is how it happens. from the day zero, starting with the hello world of your product. You tie up with QA, and QA is responsible to test your and test your whatever you are doing, whatever engineering is doing, as well as install sandbox and handle everything. Therefore, therefore, you need to know, if you are from QA, you need to know each and every component as part of Hadoop ecosystem, as well as how to administer and test them. Okay. Therefore, even though lots of people question me that testing background does not need to know the product development things, but I beg to differ here. Right? Similarly, this is another question. I am from a DBA background. Should I take up development or admin course? Again, my answer is both, because the DBA role is quite big. Although it sounds like database administrator, and you can just replace database with Hadoop and we start calling him Hadoop administrator. No. The equivalent of Hadoop is, administrator position is DevOps, or you can say the sysadmin person. But if you're talking about the DBA's role is very big. The role of DBA is architect big data solution, optimizing CRUD, which is create, retrieve, update, and deletion of the data, and setting up data platform. All right. So you can think of the DBA equivalent here is the big data architect. Okay, which is generally software engineer plus sysadmin plus database knowledge. Okay, while sysadmin is equivalent to DevOps and equivalent to Hadoop admin. All right. Now, next question you might ask us is, will you help me with the jobs? Yes and no. We will forward yes and no. We will forward the jobs with to our uh, from our knowledge partners to you, and we cannot guarantee the jobs because we just connect you to our knowledge partners. And moreover, we do not make any money out of connecting you to the knowledge partners. So once you finish the course, we will just forward connect you with our knowledge partners whenever they have an opening, and rest is up to you how you perform in the interviews. And in case you want us to help with mock interviews, we can help you that. And also, if you want our help in CV, then we can help you in that. All right. Now, all right. So this is what it is. And this is the course we have been talking about, the big data and Hadoop. This is the course we have been talking about. All right. And yeah. So this course include all of these 11 components. You can see it on the website also. And the price are these. So you can have a look at the price again. I just want to make a space for our discussion. All right. Let's go back to the discussion now. Now I will have to, yeah. All right, so good. Now, Suresh's question was this one: what kind of types of jobs does big data have, and how do I decide where do I fit in? So, did you get answer, Suresh, to this one? All right, great. Now, Ruben's question is, what do the big companies expect from a person who has just moved into big data field, and which companies in India are now offering courses to undergraduates and graduates to learn about big data and its field to its depth? Okay, so I think this part I have already answered. Yeah, this part I have already answered above. like here, computing, yeah. And in India there are many companies which offer courses online. Offline courses do not go for offline courses because getting an expert trainer locally is impossible. Okay. Reason being, in the online sessions, the most of the people who are training you are actually from the big data background. Maybe they are working at Google or Amazon or somewhere. Like for example, I was giving training when even just before I was leaving Amazon. So there are lots of people. These are freelancers who want to train, and they do it by the way of online trainings. Okay, getting offline is difficult. Reason being, lots of people who are working elsewhere, they would not like to go for offline. Second, it's very difficult to get in your local city, to be honest. Right, so there are many companies in India including ourselves, and there are many other companies. You can have a look at the internet. I would not like to. All right, so you can just do a Google search and then see the result. There are hundreds of companies other than ourselves. All right, next question from Manish is that my what if my overall experience is of only 2 years, which does not include any experience in big data? So, did you get the answer? I'm hoping that you got the answer. Good, good. Thank you, Manish. And can I mention personal project undertaken by me? Definitely, yes. Definitely, you should mention it. And that's a very big plus. If you are mentioning a personal project in your resume, do not lie about it. Be very upfront. It matters to a lot. I have actually conducted more than 400 interviews in my career so far. Few for Amazon, few for InMobi, lots of interviews for my own firm, and few for DE Shaw, my first employer. So I've conducted a lot of interviews, and the if there is a person who has taken a career break for few years, and he comes up and says that, hey, in my break time I did these things, and this is what I did. So that matters a lot when it comes to hiring. Okay. All right, now, so Ruben's question, I think I have explained. Now Srinivas's question is why lot of job applicants fake their profile to get into big data jobs. Yeah. So while lot of job applicants fake their profiles to get into data analytics job, the simple reason is that the kind of requirement people are posing out of nowhere is simply you know beyond what people can match. And second, these people who are faking, they must have realized that there is no penalty in faking. Okay. And for a company who is hiring people, even a fake point on a single resume is as horrible as a crime. Okay. So if I have seen in past that in case a person has mentioned something fake on their profile, just reject it outrightly, no matter what. Okay. So I honestly believe that in case somebody is faking anything on their profile, either they are getting away with it or they are not, and they are not getting punished for faking things. Okay. And the people who are hiring such people are also equally responsible for this, because they do not know how to hire. Just because somebody claims that they have done something or they have learned something, they just take it because they themselves don't know how to judge somebody. All right. So this is a fairly subjective question. Can Kaggle be a platform to prove ourselves as better fit for the job? Yes. Yes, for data scientist. And if somebody is performing at Kaggle and they have done really well, and there is if there is no scope of faking it, uh, even if the person does not have a computer science degree or PhD degree or whatever degree, people should consider him for job. and and I know a lot of companies respect that part a lot. Go for Amazon's data scientist position, you will realize that they respect Kaggle a lot. All right, great. All right, Debs. Now there is one more question. I will like to write it. One more. Are there differences between how big data analytics, resume, or talent is accessed between India and the West, or are they? Mm, there is a fairly big difference. Just like we had differences with software engineering, we did have differences. One of the biggest differences is that when hiring for big data, say um, any of the positions, we generally look for certificates in India. Lots of companies do generally look for certificates, but that's not the case in the West. Okay. But here also, only the few companies, handful of the companies in the beginning were asking for certificates, but now they have all realized that there is no other way than forming an entrance test. Yeah. So, what are the main courses I must study to become a data scientist? You should basically study a good enough linear algebra, all right, and statistics, and then machine learning. That too, okay, and handling big data, which is maybe you learn Hadoop, how to use Hadoop. Okay, so these are the few things you should know when you get into, and of course the computer science you should be clear about. So at a couple of places when I was I've been in the beginning just an engineer, and when I was working with few of the data scientists, they did not know much of a computer science, and that's where their solutions were suboptimal, and hence they could not really solve a problem to a very large extent. All right, so be thorough with computer science, and you should know things like how to handle I mean, or you can say uh, or distributed computing, right? So the data scientist is quite a big position to be in. Although there are companies like Mu Sigma, they even hire a freshman as data scientist, but that's another case. Now, Divs Mazumdar's question is, will a person having 10 plus of years of experience of development and testing will be welcomed in big data world? Exactly, yes. And I would say in capitals, yes. All right. And yes, right. Why? Because those are the people who are most suitable to actually do the development in big data. Reason being, all of these tools which we will be talking about, they assume the understanding of, if you go into hardcore development in big data, if you are really building solutions bottom up, you will realize that it is a, 5% add-on to the previous knowledge. All right. So a person who has 10 years of experience is actually the most suitable person into the big data development per se. All right. And the strange thing is that in today's world, a person of 10 years of experience, everybody has started to assume that you would be knowing big data. So you don't have much of a choice. Honestly, so honestly, you don't have much of a choice. Reason being, everybody has already started assuming that since you have so much of experience into development and testing, you would be knowing about big data. All right. So Srinivas's question is, so in your opinion, what percent of profiles are fake? Oh, I cannot, um, you know, I do agree that I am a data guy, but I don't have that data. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm planning to get a big data software engineer role as of now, and then in a year, I'm planning to get a big data software engineer role as of now, and then in a year or so, I'm planning to look for a role as data analytics. Okay. You should. Okay. Data analyst is easier than a big data software engineer, to be honest. But in case you plan to go for a data scientist role, maybe then your path is correct. Okay. So probably what you need to do is you need to keep your target very clear. You start with a big data software engineer, and then you move to a senior level, maybe an architect or so. Okay. And then you work hard on to the data sciences part, if you like that, because yeah, as per our discussions in the beginning, you had mentioned that you aspire to become data, yeah, you have mentioned that you aspire to become a data scientist. All right. So you don't need to go to data analyst, right? Because uh, data analyst is fairly less of hands-on, while data scientist as well as software engineer both are very hands-on job. Hands-on as in hands-on with programming language. Now, but mostly where will they be put in? Same lead level or senior junior? Generally, people start with a little junior level, and it all actually depends upon the organization to organization. Okay. So it actually depends to organization level. So for example, in case of Amazon, in case of Amazon, we did have big data technologies team. In case somebody is moving from one team to another, it's not an upgradation. So somebody will stay as SD1, SD2 level, whatever they are. It's just the position. It's just the team changes. Okay, so that's the only minor differences, and it all actually depends on how does the organization work. All right. What is the best Linux OS for Hadoop? So you either generally go for CentOS or Ubuntu. All right. I preferred CentOS because CentOS was lighter and as compared to the Ubuntu. All right. That is something. Can we reduce the fake candidates for job sites? I don't know. Maybe by augmenting with social network. That could be one way of avoiding the fake candidates. So when next question from Felix, I think is follow-up question. When a 10 years experienced person get into big data after such training, does he get the same level? Generally, it is generally at the similar level. Okay, general at the similar level, but a better similar level, but a different title. Okay, and and of course a different salary. So that's a little difference in the whole development game. So when you so if you are going back after 10 years of experience, imagine that you are a SD3 level person who has been at that level SD3. If you're moving from one company to another, you might get SD3 level itself, but you might get a different title, meaning maybe you get a title like data scientist, data architect, or SD3 big data, or SD3 distributed computing, or SD3 Hadoop developer. Okay, so this all depends on how the companies structure their strategies, right? But yeah, but salaries does differ. So again, there's another question from Srikanth. So I think I will categorize it with this question. How do we reduce or minimize fake or relevant profile? Is there an automatic way to do it instead of conventional ways that is being done today? I need to think about it because I'm not too much experienced with sourcing the candidates. Okay, the only thing I can think from the top of my head is if I build if I look at the social network, how people are recommending a person, then you can actually figure out whether the profile is fake or okay. Oh, so yes. So Dib's question is that will a person having 10 plus of years, he got actually disconnected. So yeah, my point is that my answer was that A person with 10 plus years of experience in development and testing is more than welcome in big data world, because most of the people into this technology who are really doing well are from this kind of background, specifically in development. They assume a role of a big data architect generally, and they do a pretty good in that job, right? Reason being, most of these technologies, say, and these positions like big data architect, they demand a person to have a good experience in development, right? So if you, and the important thing is almost everybody would be assuming already that you know big data, right? If you are 10 plus years of experience, people assume that you would have a good idea about what's going on. All right. So honestly, you don't have much of a choice. So that was, I've tried to answer everybody's question. Did I miss anybody's question? Is it good to get some real time experience in a small firm? Is it good to get some real time experience in a small firm or so, and then after having the experience, opt for larger companies? So, the problem with the whole assumption that if there is a small firm, then you will get a good work, maybe a hypothesis. Reason being, if it's a small firm, you might end up, it's a startup. I'm not against a startup. So if it's a startup, there are high chances that you would be doing a lot of things at your own. And in case it's a really, really small startup, and therefore you might be doing a lot of non-productive work. So think carefully when you opt for a small firm. How small is it? And if you're sure that the basic things are covered, and you will not be, when you are in a small firm, you take up a lot of titles. Sometimes you are also making the presentations, you are also doing the installations. So there are high chances that even though you have joined a small firm, you may not be focusing on the domain part. But if the firm is, say, okay types, it has 50 plus employees, then probably it will be a good decision to join a startup firm in order to get a real time experience into big data. Is there a difference between the way more smaller specialized companies like Mu Sigma source candidate compared to bigger companies? Okay. So, is there a difference between the way more specialized companies like Mu Sigma source candidate compared to big companies? In the sense, are they outsourced to the recruitment companies, or they have in-house recruitment divisions? So, I have no clue on this. Most of these companies who I've seen in past, they vary, and there are both models. They have in-house model, and there are uh, outsourced model. For example, at Amazon, we outsourced all of our non-technology work to separate companies. And basically, those people were working with Amazon, but they were not employee of Amazon. So, all right. The way these guys are, what I'm seeing with Mu Sigma and everybody, what they're doing is they are basically hiring an average people from the industry. They go to the college, they hire average person, and they give them title like a data scientist or something, and then they groom them into those kind of roles. Okay, that's companies like Mu Sigma work, and All right. So yeah, these things are quite a subjective one, and they vary a lot. All right, makes sense to you? No, actually, the outsourcing does not create much inefficiencies. I've seen outsourced teams really efficient. Now, a person having worked in mechanical electronics background in senior level where nowhere software development database got exposed, willing to catch up the demand, will that be possible? Have you seen? Yes, I have seen many cases. So I'm trying to answer to Felix's question. It's a very valid question, and I've seen many people with a similar background. So a person having worked in mechanical electronics work in senior level, where nowhere software development databases got exposed, will and willing to catch up. So if you are willing to catch up, it's not that difficult. That good part with the software engineering is that it's actually comparatively easier, and it is fairly accepting the candidate from all backgrounds. So I have seen, so if, for example, I have seen few candidates who left Coal India, so who joined Coal India, worked there for a year or so, and then realized that they are not made for that kind of work. They left it, and then after little effort, after a little bit of effort, they were able to uh, get back to the software industry. Okay, so sometimes it becomes a little difficult. Lots of companies in India, they tend to look at your past background and try to label you that you are only made for that thing. Okay, but there are other companies who see your persistence level and see that you have really learned well by yourself. They give you a chance. So there was one candidate who left some cement company or something after working there for 2.5 years, and then when he, after a little bit of struggle for 6 months, he was able to get directly into Amazon. Okay, as opposed to the general hypothesis, he was able to get into Amazon and did pretty well. Okay, all right. So there are many cases where you I have seen people from Coal India. So and the thing is here, these companies who have their well-defined written tests, so be it Google, Amazon, InMobi, these companies who have learned that there can be a good written test rather than relying upon people's history. When they have figured that out, these companies are very open to trying out people from all kinds of backgrounds, and I have seen that happening in past. Right? So if you are from that kind of background, you are more than welcome, and that is the thing about it. All right. All right. And Srikant's trying to answer to Srikant just now. Anjana has written to me that Mu Sigma relies on referral hiring quite a bit. All right. Thank you, Anjana. And yeah, because Anjana comes from a background of hiring. So that's pretty much for today. And so we offer various kinds of courses. You can attend our Big Data Hadoop course, which will have these things. And upcoming classes are on 18th of April. If you have friends to refer, you can refer your friends. And if you want to join, you're more than welcome in the course. And I'm sure you will like the session, because in our past experience, almost everybody has appreciated our uh, courses. You can go through our reviews on Facebook and on our website. All right. So these are the online instructor led trainings, where for this course I will be the instructor, and these are the uh, details of the course. So feel free to get in touch. All right. So thank you very much and stay in touch. Sure, Shrikant, you can get in touch. All right. Yep. Good night and have a good day. Yeah, I'll send you the text file in which I've been writing, the video, and this presentation which we are talking about, and you might get it by tomorrow evening. All right? Have a good day tomorrow and a week ahead. It was a great, wonderful session and a wonderful questions from you guys. I may have missed your question, so feel free to drop us an email at reach us at KnowBigData. So you just reach out to us on these phone numbers if you have any questions. Yep, the PDF and the video, everything will be shared with you. All right. All right. Thank you very much. I'll hang up now. Bye bye.